What's your story? Whether you are a client or an independent financial advisor, we know you face many important decisions that can affect your and your clients' long-term financial success. Welcome to the WIN Podcast, What's Important Now with Corey Heimensen, accredited investment fiduciary and president of Heimensen Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, Corey helps you identify your goals and objectives through financial education and comprehensive planning, while inspiring you to make better behavioral decisions in your personal finance. With a twist on pop culture and current events, join us as we explore growth and protection strategies for individuals, advisors, and their businesses. Come and discover what's important to you now.
Hello and welcome to the WIN Podcast with Corey Heimensen. Corey, it is so good to be back with you. How are you?
Wow, time goes fast, Eric. We're back at this, huh?
Yes, we are hitting this quickly. Here's the thing: is that you're lining up guests, man. You've got folks that you want to talk to. You're bringing them in studio. You have another guest in studio, Jason Engleman. I'm very excited. We got to chat a little bit before the podcast started, but I want to know, why did you bring Jason on the show today?
Well, he's kind of a minor YouTube celebrity. Some of
Nice.
some broadcasting, but we'll get into that later. But let's go to the title of this. I titled this podcast "The Bridge," and we got to tie into what that means, and then we'll certainly start listening to what Jason has to say. But I ran across a quote from a gentleman named Jim Rohn, and he was a businessman who basically came from nothing, became financially successful, was broke again, and then successful again. Just kind of a roller coaster of finance. But ultimately, he became a public speaker and really motivated people. And his quote that I found was, "Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments." And I just think that's so cool. And a lot of what we do at our office from an image perspective has bridges and things like that. But we'll get into that too. But I instantly thought of my guest, Jason. He wears a lot of hats, but I think discipline falls into his camp. So we'll turn it over to him and find out who he is or why that would even be the case.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that introduction, Corey. Appreciate being here. Appreciate you thinking of me as you're talking about the bridge and some quotes that you're reading and kind of your professional life here and working through discipline. As you mentioned, I kind of wear many hats. Kind of gives you a little information about myself. High school principal here at Central Lyon. I grew up in Northwest Iowa here and graduated just down the road at West Sioux and went to Morningside College. Played some baseball there. Went to college with my high school sweetheart, Kayla, who played some basketball there, and we set up shop here in Rock Rapids. Got my first teaching job at Central Lyon. Became a coach, teacher. Went on, did some more schooling, got into some administrative work, got middle school principalship, did some activities directing, and now currently 7-12 principal. And I've done on and off coaching, most in baseball. That's kind of where we're most familiar with each other. Doing some baseball. Like I said, I'm a parent of 6 kids, 3 girls, 3 boys. So that keeps me pretty busy, and yeah, just doing all the different things that a dad and a coach and a parent and a teacher, administrator do. So staying busy, but staying disciplined.
Yeah, there you go. Well, in those kids, you have 6 kids. They're under the age of 7, right? Oh, no.
They've grown up a little bit. They've grown up some. My oldest is 11, if that gives you any perspective, but they're very close in age. It's a tight knit family of 6 or 8 total, actually, with my wife and I.
Oh, no, I like giving you a hard time. And I think you hit it on the head there. Discipline. Instantly, people think back to maybe like the Blues Brothers movie, and there's like, I think that was a nun. I don't know if I can say that on the show, but slapping somebody on the wrist with a ruler. And discipline, in my mind, I don't go there first. I think a discipline is being focused, driven towards something, and not just relating or tying it to being in trouble.
Yeah, and that's a fair assessment. That's, when you think of a principal, what my role is as a principal or formerly as a teacher, and having a large group of kiddos under my roof, discipline to most people thinks keeping order, punishing them when they step out of line, being the bad guy. Right. And that's not a role that I really relish. But I like to think, and I wish more people thought discipline was what you're promoting here. It's about staying the course, staying focused, and kind of staying driven. To be able to accomplish those things. It's not easy having 6 kids. It's not easy doing all the wearing the different hats that I wear and the hats that you wear. And, but it takes discipline. It takes just an appreciation for the small things and doing things the right way. And, setting yourself up for success And I think I've done a pretty good job of that. At least I'm sitting here in this chair trying to explain that.
Yeah, you made that cut.
So I made it through the front door. Let's see how this goes. So, yeah.
No, I think you're spot on. And success in life, we talk about this sometimes, but success in life is not money or how big my pile is. It's being laser focused. It's showing up, putting in the work, doing the right thing, and being optimistic and appreciating like you say, the little things. Here's even an example. Just the last couple of days in our community here, we had kind of a thunderstorm, and you suddenly learn how much work it is to pick up trees and sticks and things. But then you suddenly realize, well, I'm glad a tree didn't fall through my roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you appreciate what you have and not just focus on what you don't have.
Exactly. I think that's, being able to put forth a little bit more effort is all about discipline, being able to appreciate the small things. Like you said, that storm came through and I went through town and noticed a lot of branches down, helped pick up a few. Even notice, it's a lesson learned. I got a kind of funny story. We live out on an acre south of town, no trees. So I've grown to appreciate trees. I used to think I don't have to pick up those limbs at my place. Right. That was a mistake. There's no shade. There's no wind blocking. It's just, I'm just getting blasted with wind up there. But that windstorm comes through, and a year ago, my swing set would have tipped over, rolled down the hill. It did it 2 or 3 times. So this summer, my wife and I were disciplined. We set a goal and we said, we're going to get that swing set into the ground. We're going to put some pavers down. We're going to actually get this thing. Lo and behold, it still stands.
There you go.
So my kids woke up, ran to the window. The swing set is still up, Dad. You did a good job. Pat on the back. And that's the small victories.
Yeah. Because probably whatever else went down that day or the following day or the day before, that's what you remember, is just that little pat in the back from the kids that are thinking, Dad's a brilliant architect, engineer, landscaping genius.
Dad, all that sweat and time out in the heat really paid off on a day like today. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. You hit the coaching thing. And I think that's really, boy, I'm driven, I'm competitive, but it comes back to my ball playing days.
Yep.
What would you say about discipline and let's go baseball? I mean, how important is that?
Oh, baseball. You and I are big baseball guys, and I've coached. That's what I've coached the most is baseball. And I just got out of it this year and doing some rec league stuff. But boy, discipline in baseball is huge because it's a game that is just, you're so unsuccessful. The best players in the world go 3 for 10, 2 for 10 most of the time at the plate. Well, that can create a lot of frustration. It can create a lot of, whatever I'm doing isn't working or whatever this is. It's like, you got to stay the course. You got to stick to what you've been trained on, stick to what the coaches are telling you. So you got to be disciplined. You got to be disciplined at the plate. You got to be knowing what balls and strikes are. You got to be laser focused, even in the outfield. And you get 1 ball a game, you still got to be disciplined to stay in the game and know what you got to do to back up bases. So baseball, and I'm just biased, kind of like I'm sure you are, baseball, you just discipline and focus and just being able to go through the ups and downs. Like you said, the roller coaster ride. It doesn't happen any more so than in baseball than in any other game that I've ever played.
Right.
I mean, it's a different game. It's a challenge, which I appreciate. It doesn't come easy. You can be any size, any speed, and be successful. Where other sports, maybe that gives you an upper hand depending on your structure.
Yep.
And how quick or powerful you are.
Sure. I've got a super random question for you related to baseball. And I have not thrown this at you first. We're going to get your raw answer. Does it annoy you when a fielder has their foot on the base, let's say on second base, to catch a throw when it's not a force out?
Does it annoy me?
You know what I mean? Like if there's going to be a play at second, if the batter's going for a double and the second baseman is standing on second with 1 foot on second base, waiting for the relay throw from the outfield as if it's a force out, but it's not a force out, because they have to tag that runner. Does that annoy you?
I'd say I don't. It depends on what it looks like, I guess. You're kind of painting a pretty good picture. And I saw a lot of that in rec ball this year. And that annoyed me, that you didn't know perhaps that it was a tag play. It wasn't a force out, that you needed to be in a better fielding position in case the ball went left or right of you, and be able to make a quick tag, because that's what's necessary to get the runner out. So it does frustrate me because I'm just a thinker of the game, and I've played it so much and I've coached it so much. I've watched so much that to me, that should be natural for other people. And especially at the high school level, that would really frustrate me more at the high school level than what I'm dealing with now with the little league rec softball girls. But know what's expected of you before it actually happens. I think preparation, my goodness. You should be able to know that if the ball's hit here, I got to be lined up in this position, ready to field whatever throw the outfielder gives me to make a quick tag if the guy were to come. I think standing in that position just kind of makes you look like you had no clue what you were doing.
Exactly. That's where I was going. Because my family knows that this annoys the heck out of me, whether it's my kids playing or, their teammates. I have hated this for years. So that's why I had to just poke myself essentially to bring this demon to light to see if you agreed with me. And I think you did.
I did. In a roundabout way, I agree with you that it is, if you played the game enough, those little intricacies of the game will just annoy you. You think, better than that, or we've taught you in practice this or that. Think about it ahead of time. Those things just run through your mind. And you're just like, oh,
yeah. And maybe I was a planner of sorts in my thinking before I ever knew I'd be a planner, because you're right. Playing baseball, you got to be on your toes, ready to move or anticipate. And essentially it's no darn different in life, at your job, or in running your own business, or navigating a family. You got to be prepared for what's coming next, and
correct.
Be willing to adapt and change. I get that too. But you got to be ready and expect things if you want to be 2 steps ahead.
Exactly. And I think that's a little bit of my frustration with coaching. I kind of got a little burnt out in that area. And I do a little bit with other things, is where do you draw the line to what do you prepare them for, and what do they have to prepare themselves? Between every play in the dugout this year, and I even know in high school, I would be yelling out, hit to you, touch your base, hit to you, who's got second, ball hitting the gap, you're the cutoff man, you're going to be relaying it here. It's like, how much of that should I be doing? Maybe the first couple games,
right?
But it got old after the 7th, 8th, into the 12th teens of the season. You're like, I'm still saying this stuff. They should know, right? But the minute you don't, then you kick yourself because you didn't.
Yeah, you let them down.
So I don't know. I went off a little tangent there, but
I like tangents. Eric, I like tangents, right?
Oh, just a wee bit.
What is your craziest or best baseball story?
Oh boy. Craziest or best. One of the best stories I have about baseball is being able to coach with my dad. I played for him in high school, got to coach with him at that same high school, went to state, got to coach with him at that level, and then coached against him as an opponent here at Central Line versus West Sioux, and he's still coaching today. Has a lot of success. I think coaching and playing, that kind of all-encompassing, being able to kind of work with your mentor and then kind of go up against your mentor,
sure, was
kind of a fun thing. College, I had so many fun baseball stories that.
How many could go on the air? Any?
Yeah. Most I would like to think could go on the air and be a teachable moment, at least for some.
Sure.
I don't know. I had a really good time at Morningside and made a lot of friends. At the end of the day, that's what baseball was to me, was just a group setting where a lot of guys liked the same thing and put a lot of heart and effort into the same thing. And you saw the successes, roller coasters, the stories, the bus trips. It wasn't always just between the lines. It was stuff that happened in the dugout, stuff that happened on an overnight stay in Joplin, Missouri. Just those types of things are crazy baseball stories, although they have nothing really to do with a bat and a ball.
I can't believe you brought up Joplin, Missouri, because now I've got a story.
Oh, go for it, because we went there quite often in college. So,
So I think it was my sophomore year of college. I went to Buena Vista, home of the Beavers. Back in the day when the college started, I believe they were the BVERS, BVers, and somehow that morphed into Beavers. So we caught a lot of flack when we went on the road.
I bet.
But anyway, we took the spring trip and we went to Joplin, Missouri, and I was a relief pitcher, and we were playing, I think it was Missouri Southern, and they were a Division II team that was pretty well ranked at that point, or at least the coach told us that. I don't know. So they bring me out of the bullpen for the 6th inning. Those were 7-inning games, and there's people on base, and I came in, of course, against their best hitter, right? And I'm a knuckleballer, and so he watches the first one go down the middle and just couldn't believe that I was at the college level, I think. And the second one, he hits about as hard as Aaron Judge hits a baseball for the Yankees. And this thing towers. I can visually see it taking off, and it goes just foul of the left field foul pole.
Yep.
and their dugout's harassing him and he's smiling at me. And I thought, well, I'm this deep. We're going to bring it right down the middle again. And I threw what in history now turns back to be the best knuckleball of my life. And it dropped about 1.5 feet and he swung over top of it and about fell down. And I was suddenly the hero of the entire ballpark because their dugout was laughing, the crowd's laughing, everybody in the place was laughing except that guy.
Yeah, I bet.
And he just stared at me and I smiled at him and I smiled at his dugout and then they were razzing him and I was off the hook. But anyway, I can't remember what happened after that, but that was like the coolest, I don't know, 1.5 minutes of my life, probably.
Yeah. Well, Joplin, Missouri was a fun place to play. However, I can't say that I was overly excited to go there for spring break. That was our spring break trip. Other teams, I got to watch my wife play basketball and they're going down to San Antonio, Texas to play games and they're doing all this stuff. And I say, hey, yeah, we're going to Joplin for a week. It's like, it's not much warmer. It's a little warmer, not much.
I think the college softball team at our school that year, flew to Florida, to Fort Lauderdale to play softball. And we took a couple of rundown vans with guys packed to the hilt, for
the love of the game is what it was. Yep. For the love of the game.
But you're right. Life, it's about experiences. We talk about that too. So very cool. I'll throw another random question at you. Who is the most famous person you've ever met or ran across?
Yeah. You did send me this one ahead of time, so it's not too random, but it took me a while to think about this. I've been fortunate. I've got to meet a couple different famous people. But I would say the top two, one, I took a friend trip with my wife and a couple friends from college. We went to Vegas and we're practicing our discipline in Vegas.
I think that's in the logo.
Is it? Yeah.
Or slogan.
Is it? Okay.
Something like that.
So we were walking around MGM and we wanted to play some craps. I enjoy some table games and things and have some fun with my friends. And lo and behold, Roy Williams of North Carolina Tar Heels is playing craps. And he's at a table basically by himself. And I remember me and my friends are sitting, in the peripheral, we're sitting back and we kept staring at it. I'm like, that's Roy Williams. I'm pretty sure that's Roy Williams. He's got a bodyguard there. He's a little older gentleman, but I could tell. I've seen enough games. And
sure,
I look at the pit boss and he connects eyes with me and my friends and he gives us this, don't even think about it, guys.
Don't come over here.
Which we in turn thought, let's go over there. Let's go over and meet this guy. We end up rolling craps with him for like a half an hour and he's just a regular guy. And we talked a little basketball, but mostly talked about craps and seeing if we can get on a roll of some type, which we didn't. So we left very disappointed, but it was a fun experience with him.
I don't know if we can dig into somebody's personal gambling habits, but did Roy play the pass line or the don't pass?
He was playing the pass line.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it was fun. It was a fun little time with him. My second one would be Bo Jackson. So as a baseball fan, also a football fan, I get to meet Bo in Sioux City. He works a little bit with my brother-in-law there in Sioux City and was there for a golf tournament. And he was in the foursome of best ball tournament. He was in the foursome just ahead of us. And we caught up to him. I don't know how, but we weren't playing very well. We caught up to him. Must have been a stall in the tournament. And I got to talk to him a little bit. We got to watch him drive a hole. My goodness.
Could you even see the ball come down?
No, I mean, that ball, I felt bad for the ball. He just like crushes this thing. And it wasn't a slice, nothing. I mean, it's just a bomb. And I just saw Bo Jackson just annihilate a golf ball. It's just incredible.
I'm having a flashback because didn't he annihilate Brian Bosworth of the Seattle Seahawks in a football play as well?
He did, the Bos. He did. Yep.
Who was a big dude himself.
Big dude. But Bo was just an incredible athlete. So that's kind of one of those things where, as a kid in Northwest Iowa, you play every sport and you're like, not many, you're looked at in your community as like, wow, he's pretty good at everything. That's kind of cool. But this guy was good at everything on a whole different level. And it was incredible to just meet him and shake his hand and see him, like I said, just destroy a golf ball like he destroyed 99 mile an hour fastballs for the Royals and White Sox. Yeah, I mean, it is amazing to think of not only just being a professional athlete, but doing it in multiple sports. I mean, it's a pretty short list if you're talking Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. Yeah. I mean, that's where I stop. You know what I mean? That's about it.
Michael Jordan probably does not qualify after he tried a little baseball stuff.
Yeah, he didn't quite make it in baseball at that level.
Tim Tebow, probably scratched that too.
Yeah, it's Deion and it's Bo. That's who comes to mind for me.
Yeah, that's wild stuff.
Yeah.
I was my wife and I were in an airport in St. Louis. I think it was on our honeymoon connecting flight. And I walked by Ice-T, the rapper. So this is a lot of years ago. So this is like tough guy, controversial Ice-T, you know, not like Ice-T today that's doing like TV commercials for yoga, modern health. Yeah,
exactly.
So I guess that just shows you how fast life goes by.
Oh, and I was very fortunate as a kid, talking about baseball. My dad became pretty good friends through another buddy in the Hayward Ironton area with Terry Steinbeck, who was a catcher for the Oakland A's back in the day.
Sure.
Back when they were running through the World Series, and he had a very good career. He played with the A's and the Twins, and we got to go to plenty of his games out in Oakland when he was up here in Minneapolis, went to New York. And so as a kid, I was very fortunate. Like, we got to stay in the hotel as the Minnesota Twins.
Sure.
One time I went down into the clubhouse, and I was so young, I didn't even know what I was doing, and walked past Don Mattingly of the Yankees, you know, McGuire sitting in the dugout over in this direction, Canseco over here. And I was just a little kid with a bunch of cards, you know, looking to get them signed, just take pictures, who would take pictures. But the old, you know, today would be a whole different story. I'd have been more wild than what I was, but that was an incredible experience that not many kids get. And that was pretty cool for me.
That's funny, because now you're bringing back to a finance term of diversification, because I was a baseball card collector growing up. And so when I got into college, it seemed like I ran into people that needed money. So I was always buying baseball cards from people on the floor of my hall, because I had a summer job, saved a bunch of money, and, you know, was smart about it. So this one guy sold me his collection, and he had about 60 different cards of Mark McGuire and about 60 of Jose Canseco, you know, so the Bash brothers or whatever. So I started hoarding these cards for these two guys. And lo and behold, decade or two goes by, and then we get the whole steroid asterisk record book stuff. And I think all those cards are about worth 50 cents a piece. You know,
hope you didn't pay too much for those.
I'm sure I paid more than 50 cents a piece. You know, so the point is, it's better off to collect a lot of things, whether it's investment assets or baseball cards. You might as well have different looking ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of a pile of one that you're banking on.
Well, I got plenty of cards. I can tell you that. Plenty.
Wow, you're going to be a repeat guest. We might have
another segment on card collecting.
Session. Well, yeah,
we could do some big trading here on your desk. I'm not taking your McGuires or Cansecos, but
do you have one card that's the coolest in your memory bank? This is totally random.
Oh, geez. No, not necessarily. I was, you know, like most kids when I was growing up, Jordan. I mean, if you had Jordan cards, you were something. And so have Jordan. I didn't learn to appreciate Kobe until late in his career, and kind of almost after his passing, how good of a player Kobe was.
Right.
And I have some Kobe cards that baseball cards to me there wasn't so many big name players. I mean, there were, but there's so many of them. It's such a large, you know, area of players that all the ones that I had signed from those Twins and A's, I still have in a book somewhere, just because those come with memories.
Yep.
They mean more than just the card itself. But no, I wouldn't say there's one in particular that just comes to mind. I'd say anything Jordan and anything signed that I was able to get as a kid.
That's cool.
Are huge.
I've got three that stand out in my mind, and these are going to be super random, but the player was Billy Ripken, played for Baltimore.
Yep.
I think he was an infielder, but the reason the cards are cool is that it's a picture of him holding the bat, and on the end of the bat, his teammates had written a couple of not nice words on it. So I've got one that has the not nice words, one that's a white scribble, and one that's a black box. So there's three of the exact same card, but the, you know, Tops or whoever the manufacturer caught this and then issued a couple other. So honestly, of all the big name player stuff I have, those might be the coolest or most collectible, just because they're weird.
Really?
You know what I mean?
That's incredible. They have three different cards, basically the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a very, you know, we're going way off the script here, but
that's what we do here.
One of probably the strangest things about me, I have like a photographic memory. So you say Billy Ripken, I can immediately come to about a dozen cards I had of Billy Ripken and what he looked like, what position he played, Texas, you know, Baltimore. And I can just name you know, Billy, Cal, you know, and I got all these other ones. And I have a photographic memory, especially when it comes to baseball. And that's what I think made me a pretty good catcher, because I could remember what a guy hit against us the first inning 2 weeks ago.
Really?
You know, and develop pitch sequences and such. but when I was coaching, we always played this game, Coach Lutmer, myself, and guys like Carson Schubert and some other baseball fanatics would play this baseball game where you'd say the first name, last name, and then you'd have to work the first name off of that player. So Billy Ripken, then I'd say Rafael Palmeiro, then I'd have to go P, and we'd play this game forever, and I could play forever. There's no stop because I had endless cards, and I can just picture a player and I can tell you what that card looked like and what I did with that card. Cause I used to make, as a kid, you made lineups, you looked at them, you put them in teams, and I could go through and tell you.
You have totally blown my mind.
It's kind of a hidden talent that I don't share with a lot of people, but I have a very good memory.
Well, we only have a couple million listeners across the world. So
yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like Moneyball memory analytics stuff, but I can see things like that back from when I was immersed in it. It's just crazy.
You might become a regular on this show. This is
my wife always, and I talk about, I should have really went into like something, I wouldn't say more challenging than education, but like my anatomy, I could look at the page and I could see the picture of it and tell you the muscles, the tissue, all that. Not that I learned it. That's not learning by any means. That's just memory.
Now my mind thinks that we need to turn this into a business opportunity of some kind. What do you think of that, Eric? Should we throw him into the mix here somehow?
How
always use more to do.
How are you at card counting? That's my question. I mean,
I play a lot of cards, and I'm probably the last person you want to play cards against because my daughters are finding that quickly. We just taught them, rummy, and we're teaching them pinochle, and we play cribbage, and they're like 11 and 10 years. They've played for years, but I can tell you, that was a bad play because that card was played half an hour ago. And kind of those things.
See, and I've talked about this before that, professional poker players, good ones, understand enhanced value of certain ways to play and decision-making, because just because you get a bad outcome doesn't mean it was a bad decision.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I'm curious, do you play poker or do you like poker or no?
I used to play a lot of poker. I don't anymore. I just don't have time.
But I mean,
not many people play anymore. Not many people play cards.
I think it has kind of waved or peaked up. Something like that, though, I mean, does that almost feel like work instead of fun if that's the way your mind kind of tracks things?
No, I still have fun. I still have fun. I love playing cards. I'm like so we'll go on this family vacation going up with my wife's in-laws and things, and there's tons of people. It's not uncommon that most of the people my age and younger, I'd say younger now, are out on the beach. I'd like to find the elderly or the people that are more, they're inside and we're playing cards. I mean, I'm playing pinochle, we're playing Brit, we're playing whatever, hearts. And that's kind of the way my mind operates. I'm not, which is weird because I'm a baseball player. I should be outdoors, but it's a little bit of both.
I'm just getting a fun forward visual of like 40 years from now, you being at the senior center and just dominating the tables, and then just like telling them you dominated the tables. You know what I mean? Like your competitive side.
Absolutely.
Like, take that, Ethel.
He's totally, absolutely. He's taking everybody's peanut butter cups and their pudding cups.
That's right.
Their little mixed fruit bowls. He's got them all on his side of the table.
Yeah.
You got to play for something. I'm not just going to play for the fun of it. We're going to play for something. I mean,
it's not enough to play for the heartbreak on old people's faces. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I guess. I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a fantastic podcast. There are a couple things that I have to point out. Number one, Jason, you don't probably know this at this point. Maybe you guys talked about it before we hit the record button. But Corey had a guest last time, David Ackerman. And I think David needs to be invited to the table when you guys are trading cards, because then he can provide that homemade whiskey that he's got. And that would make for a much more interesting trading session of your baseball cards. That's just my opinion, but that might be an opportunity. And for the listeners, if you didn't hear that interview, go back and listen to that interview. It's great. Jason, one other thing that you may or may not know is that Corey takes every opportunity to bash my team because he's a Cowboys fan, as is my wife. We've talked about that on the air. I'm a Seahawks fan. So of course he had to throw in the Boz and Bo Jackson just snuffing him out just to get me. I don't know if he shared that with you, but he likes to give me a hard time. And I wanted to go back to one other thing that you said at the very beginning of the podcast that just stuck with me. You said that most people, when they think of discipline, they think of, especially because you were a principal, keeping order. But at the same time, I think that that's exactly what discipline is for ourselves. Corey has talked about that on the show before. Being disciplined, I think it's just keeping order of ourselves. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's staying within your means and keeping kind of control of yourself. Kind of self-control is really what discipline is, and talk about order. I think they're very much alike.
Yeah. And Corey, keeping order, you're helping to teach your clients this all the time, right? This is something that you focus on, helping them just keep order of what they have, because that's what you do. You help them to do that, and then helping them to understand, since they are keeping order by being disciplined, they can enjoy a whole lot more.
Yeah, that is spot on. About daily, I have probably more than one. I was going to say a conversation every day, but there's probably several conversations every day where people lose track of the order of things, or the plan at hand, or these enhanced value type decision-making things, because they get caught up in current headlines, doomsday media comments of the day. If you make decisions looking backwards, you don't make very good decisions. If you make decisions from an emotional standpoint, you don't make very good decisions. You got to keep a calm head. And if you can't do it, you got to trust people on your professional team that can do it and keep you going down that path. And that's why educators and coaches are so great, for people. And I call myself a coach just from a finance perspective of helping people make good behavioral decisions.
Yeah.
And it's funny how all these terms kind of interrelate. If we're talking discipline, now I'm talking behavior, and all this stuff ties together. So I guess I could say I bridged it all together.
Wow.
The name of the podcast. Wow.
Yeah. Very
It's
good.
amazing.
That is amazing. How it came full circle.
I am a crafty veteran of, this is episode 14, and it's just amazing how it all comes together every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. And to tie it together, Corey, for those that are looking for some freedom from those flash headlines, those worrisome things that the media is doing to sell that advertising, they need to talk to somebody with a level head that can take the emotion out of things and help them to become disciplined. That's what you're there for. You've always offered free time on your calendar. How do they get a hold of you in case they want to start that conversation and say, you know what, I'd like to have a little bit more freedom in my life?
You bet. And I'm going to give one guarantee before I even give that phone number. And I'm not supposed to guarantee things in my industry, right? But I mean, I guarantee you that any type of headline that is scary to a person, if you call me, I can break that down and explain it to a person in an easy to understand fashion. And when you get an easy understanding of something, sometimes it doesn't feel as scary anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I am happy, and my team and the other advisors here are always happy to have these conversations with anybody. No obligation, no pressure. And that number that I promised you, give us a call at 800-657-4316.
Jason, again, thank you so much for being on the show. And of course, Corey, thank you for facilitating this and bringing Jason on the show. And our last thank you is always to you, the listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Win Podcast with Corey Heimensen. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Corey comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask you to share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, as this actually does help other people find the show. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at Heimensen Wealth Advisors, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the WIN Podcast. What's important now? The show that helps you achieve your financial dreams. To ask questions about topics covered during the show, or get a copy of Stop Doing Dumb Things with Your Money by Corey Heimensen, visit www.heimensenwealth.com or give us a call at 712-472-3867. Don't forget to click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. Securities offered through Securities America Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors Inc. Heimensen Wealth Advisors and Securities America are separate entities.